Welcome to the Sage Women podcast, hosted by Melanie White and Dr. Nick Engera. We have real conversations with real women, health professionals, and coaches who share stories about perimenopause, menopause, and a range of women's health issues. Please subscribe so you get the latest updates every fortnight.
Hi, it's Melanie White here on the Sage Women podcast. Welcome. Today I want to talk about a really important topic, 5 things that you can do to make the menopause transition easier. Whether this is about you or somebody that you love and are supporting, pay attention. I want to talk about 5 things that are within your control. And the reason why this matters is that at this time of significant physical, emotional, physiological change, it's really tough. We have a lot of responsibilities in midlife already without these things, and we can feel a little bit out of control. We can feel a little bit helpless. We start looking outside of ourselves. Where can I get help? What do I need to do? But one of the key messages I want to get across to you today is that there is actually a lot that's within your control and that you can do to make the transition easier. And what do I mean by making the transition easier? Well, firstly, stress is a huge driver of symptoms. The more stressed you are, the more severe and frequent you're likely to have symptoms. So managing stress is a really critical part of having an easier transition because you'll likely have fewer, less frequent and less severe symptoms according to the research. The other thing is that you have limited time and energy with all of this going on in your body. It's a huge physiological cost of energy to go through this transformation. So your available energy and focus is really diminished, and supporting that and helping you figure out the best way to spend and invest that energy is really important. And there are certain things that you can do to make that easier. Now let's talk about the 5 things in no particular order, but really knowing that you are empowered to take some control back in your life and to make life easier for yourself and therefore for the people around you. I think one of the most important things that you can do is to start writing things down. Now, if you're going through brain fog, if you're having memory lapses, if you're finding it hard to process things, writing down a reflective journal can help. Writing down reminder notes to do certain things or to-do lists can be a great habit to start if you're not doing it already. And putting things into your calendar or your diary so that you remember to do them is fantastic. A little bit of work around that structure can really help you to get things done and still feel a sense of achievement and competence, which is so important for your self-worth, your self-confidence. So really sticking to those lists, writing things down and diarising things, not being too ambitious with that, of course, is helpful to at least get some things done. Or when you write a list, it might indicate where you can ask someone else to help you. The reflective journaling piece is helpful because it can help you to make sense of your emotions. If you're writing down how you're feeling, what happened to you today, you might start to get a greater sense of your symptoms, of patterns that are coming up in your life that need attention or that are helpful. So some reflective writing practice is a really, really beneficial thing, not just for midlife menopausal women, but for anybody to have some self-awareness of what's working and what's not, what your needs are, and perhaps what sorts of symptoms you have. So another part of writing that down could also be writing down the symptoms that you have and tracking them when they occur, how severe they are. So writing things down is a helpful way to understand your needs, to get things out and to get things done. That's the first of 5 things. I think the second thing that's really important is to start letting people know that you don't have as much brain capacity or that you don't have the space to think about things or that you're not able to do certain tasks. It's really important that people understand that you need space and time, that you might not be able to do as many things at the moment. And finding a way to say that to the people that matter most is really important. for your ongoing relationships, for your work ability, and for your social connection. So here's some examples. I was just speaking to someone on the podcast, Tanya Rutherford, this morning, and she was discussing how she let her kids and her husband know that it's a bit of a menopause day today. She's not feeling that great. She can't be relied upon to do certain things. So she felt safe to have that conversation with her husband, and letting your significant other know is really important. It makes for a more amenable relationship. So what about at work? Maybe you can ask to take a break during a meeting. Maybe you can ask to move a deadline on a task. Even if you're not willing to disclose that you're going through menopause, even if it's not psychologically safe to do so, there are ways that you can ask for space, let people know, and that you need a bit more time or a bit more support. So think about what you could say to the people around you. I have a friend also that is very clear that during this time she's feeling a bit withdrawn and not very social. So we have a respectful understanding between us that we're not going to be having as many conversations as we normally do, or as many catch-ups. And I've had that same conversation myself with others. So finding ways that are comfortable for you to let people know is the second tip. I guess the third one, there's two actual parts to this, but I'm going to break them into separate parts. So the third one is saying no. And coming back to the earlier discussion I had, which was we have less time and energy right now because of the physiological changes in our bodies. So we simply can't do all the things that we used to do. And it's not forever, it's for this period of time while our body is going through the changes that it's going through. So there might be things that you start to say no to. For example, working weekends or working late. You might be saying no to your workplace or to yourself if you have a really strong work ethic. You might say no to social engagements. Perhaps you're too tired at the end of the week to go to a party that goes till 2 a.m. Or perhaps there's a way to do that that isn't so tiring. For example, going for an hour. And that comes back to letting people know, I'm not feeling that well at the moment, but I'll come for an hour. Learning how to say no to others, to demands that are too taxing, and perhaps to your own unrealistic expectations is really important. I won't say that it's easy. I remember going through this process and having less energy and thinking, well, I should be able to do all the things that I used to do, but I just couldn't. And so I had to make a decision. Do I beat myself up for that, or do I adjust and adapt? So I went for adjust and adapt. I went for psychological flexibility. I went for be agile and go with this rather than put extra undue stress on my system, which could impact my health and all of the other things in my life. So saying no is really important, and understanding when to say no takes self-awareness. That's why I talked about the writing first. Understanding what's going on for you might help you to figure out where and when do you need to say no so that you can say yes in the right places. That leads to the next point, is asking for space. Now, this can be really relevant at work. Not everyone, but some women going through menopause need to have quiet space. They're flustered by the noise and the distraction of people around them. So being able to go to a place to do some thinking work, to take a break, is really important in the workplace, but also at home. If you've got a family, kids, a dog, everyone needs your attention and needs a bit of your time, and they're doing their own things in a noisy way sometimes. I'm speaking from experience here. So it's really important that you have a place that you can go that's not the toilet or the shower, that you can have a break, and to let people know that you're taking some quiet time. Maybe that quiet space is outside in the garden or on the beach or in the bush. But asking for space and taking that space really is important for your ability to process, to slow things down, to calm down the anxiety, to take the pressure off, and perhaps to reconnect with nature. Taking space, asking for space is so important. All of these things relate to my fifth point for today, and that is decluttering. Now, it's one word, but it actually means a lot. There's a lot in the concept of decluttering. Where do you start? And so there are a few ways to think about decluttering, and perhaps I can tell you a bit of my story so that you can make sense of how it could be done. Of course, you'll have your own version. For me, decluttering meant I'm at this stage of my life where I'm letting go of the old version of me and I'm stepping into a better version of me, a new version that I'm still creating and ideating and discovering. So I decided that I would go through my house bit by bit, through my drawers, through my personal possessions, and get rid of anything that no longer represents who I am today. I went through and got rid of trinkets that I'd kept since I was 18 and clothes that still fit me that I thought I might wear one day if it came back into fashion, and crockery and implements and ornaments that I've been collecting over the years that were meaningful to me. Little by little, piece by piece, maybe one thing a week, I'd open a cupboard and think, you know what, I don't need that anymore. And I'd take it to the charity bin, or I'd give it to someone, or I'd throw it away. The sense of ease that you get from decluttering, the sense of space that you get from decluttering, the sense of letting go that you get from decluttering is so phenomenal. That's just one example, and here are two more. I went into my digital ecosystem and I backed up everything on my computer to an external drive, and I just deleted a whole bunch of folders, and I unsubscribed from a whole bunch of email newsletters, and I left a whole bunch of platforms, not all at once, but over a period of months. I started sifting out anything that no longer looked like me. It's a little bit like Michelangelo getting the piece of rock and carving out the statue of David and saying, well, I chipped away everything that didn't look like David. That's a little bit what I'm talking about here with decluttering. Getting rid of all of the digital stuff that you don't need, that feels overwhelming, the big inboxes. You don't need to have 20,000 emails in there. I was only harboring a couple of hundred, but you know what? Many of them I hadn't looked at in over 6 months. So I just deleted a whole lot of them. And I started also tidying things up and getting some of my affairs in order, digitally speaking. All my passwords went into a password database, which was fantastic because now I know there's one place I can go to get passwords. They're not stuck all over the place on post-it notes. There's another side to decluttering too, which is perhaps a little bit harder, but equally as important. And that is your relationships with other people. There are relationships in your life that no longer serve you, that are toxic or negative, that are unhelpful, that you're only sticking around for because you have a history. Do you need those relationships anymore? Maybe, maybe not. It can be a bigger and harder decision to make and conversation to have, but you also now have a chance to get rid of the people and things in your life that no longer serve you, that are unhelpful, that don't support you, that drag you down. It might mean that you no longer go to a book club that you used to go to, or you drop out of a certain Facebook group or whatever it is. Think about what you can achieve, what's easiest to do, but you can start to distance yourself from people that, and obligations, I suppose, that don't suit you anymore. Could be temporary, could be permanent. This one takes a little more courage. So that's 5 things that you can do. You can write things down, your own thoughts and the things that you need to get done. You can let people know that today you're not available, or today you need a bit of time and space, or today don't rely on me, pick someone else to help, or please help me. You can say no. You can say no to yourself about unrealistic expectations, or to other people who ask you to do things. And you might say, no, but ask me again in future, so as not to damage that relationship. Asking for space and giving that to yourself, and decluttering. So these are 5 things that are going to help you to reduce stress on your nervous system, to calm the anxiety a little bit, to take some of the pressure off, and to help you really get to know who you are, who you're capable of being, and perhaps to start reinventing the newer version of you through menopause and beyond. I hope this has been helpful. I'd love to hear any thoughts or tips that you have for making the journey easier. Thanks very much, and we'll see you next time.